Okay, we are here on a Friday the 13th, and I'm just reading your comments here, and so many tinfoil hat people in here. I'm not tinfoil hat, guys, so maybe Elon Musk should have his own show that has a tinfoil hat. So I'm not a tinfoil hat guy. So let me just tell you something, before I begin the main broadcast here. So we're clear. The algorithm, the YouTube algorithm, does not like me, and maybe some of you, in terms of the comments, to talk about a certain problem here today, right? Because they'll demonetize me. It's kind of a evil kind of thing here, but it is what it is. So we're gonna play a little game, and we'll see if we can make the algorithm not be so unfriendly. And so if you want to have whatever you want to talk about that is not related to my topic, let's refer to it by the initials CV. Don't type the whole name. Don't type the whole designation with a number on it. Just put CV, and just don't clutter the chat with too many. I don't know what triggers the algorithm to say too much. So just we'll just we'll do an experiment, because the last time I did this and the title actually mentioned CV, it actually got demonetized. So YouTube is actually saying that it realizes this is the main topic of conversation now, so it can't exclude it. But basically, they don't want people to be spreading inaccurate news, like fake news kinds of things. This is part of their algorithm that they use to react to disasters and events. So just so you know. So again, for this broadcast, please do not refer to anything like a disease-like thing, old man. Just refer to it as CV. CV. Okay. We'll cut down on. Let's just cut down on the actual reference, and just to see if that makes some difference. It may not make a difference, but we'll do an experiment, since that is what we do. We play with computers here, and the YouTube algorithm is a computer. So yeah, I don't know, for us. I don't know if that'll work. I don't know if that'll work. So yeah, that's probably too close. So let's just stick to CV. Anyway, guys, welcome on this Friday. And yes, hello, Dark Sims Navarro. How are you? ¿Cómo estás, Dark Sims Navarro? Gordon Freeman, Faraz, Elon Musk, Mike L. Who did I miss here? Ken Watts, Jellyfish, Galvano from Italy. How are you doing in Italy? And Iron Fist, Fearlutzi's here, Old Man. So welcome, my friends. And if I missed you here, just say hi. Watching while customizing my BlackBerry Classic. What happened with? I'll tell you about that, Jellyfish. I'll tell you about that. So yes. So for those who were not aware, I actually did interview. Hello, pizza loving nerd. Did you do this interview live? I missed it. I'm going to tell you what happened. Easy. So yes, I did interview John McAfee last Monday. So there's an actual interview, and from that interview, I wrote an article, and it's in the description. So make sure to read the article, which is basically what we talked about. I only remember one thing that he said that was not on there. Kind of belatedly after the fact, I remember that he talked about something, and it wasn't on there, and it had to be about taxes. But basically, everything he said was on there. and he shared it with his own. He shared it with his own followers on Twitter. He has 1 million followers on Twitter, and he shared it with them, and they were very very nice people. John and Janice McAfee. They're very nice people. I'm so pleased to have known them, and yeah, he's a actually, I actually thought that because he's so famous that he would be kind of cocky and self-important kind of person. He was not. He was pretty authentic. He had, if you read my article, he was drinking tequila during my entire broadcast, and he was enjoying his tequila, and yeah, it was a very very nice interview. And unfortunately, guys, what happened was I don't really use Skype much, and we were using Skype. I am not a big Skype user, and I zucking screwed up. Because when I was testing it, the interview was supposed to have happened over a month ago, and it got postponed, and it kept getting postponed. And when I practiced doing this, because I set it up, I set up my computer and tested it, and then I forgot how I did it. And one of the things I forgot was that on Skype, you have to say record. And I forgot to hit record. So there was no recording. So then what happened was I did an OBS of it on my end, and you can hear in the background what he's saying through basically headphone sounds, because my headphone was near the microphone and I could hear him through the headphones, but I couldn't hear him directly speaking clearly enough. It was kind of mumbled. So it was not even possible to salvage the video because I forgot to hit record. So I'm sorry about that, but it turned out nicely, because when I wrote the article, I thought that being able to respond and not just be kind of a one-sided talk from him made it more interesting. And if you read the article, I thought it was kind of an interesting read. Well, I wrote it, so maybe you don't think so, but I thought it was an interesting story, the way I wrote it, and I thought that we could all learn from it. So anyway, maybe next time, I'm not going to ask him for an interview again now, but maybe pizza loving nerd. Did he murder someone? He's not being chased by anyone for murder, no. So I don't really know what the end result of that, but no, they're not currently chasing him for murder. But they're making a movie out of him. I think the movie might come out this year. So there's a movie being made called King of the Jungle, and then Michael Keaton is going to play a crazy McAfee, and Zac Efron, I think, is going to be the reporter. And this was about some event in Belize, which he described, and I'll tell you that story too, because that's not part of the interview. There's a lot of things I already knew that's not part of the interview, but it was very very interesting. Now, our country, not just, yes, you're locked down over there in Italy, not just because of CV, but it's totally broke country. That's very interesting, Galvano. Very interesting. So anyway, so read my article that I put on the description of the video, and it's going to talk about, that's the actual interview. So sorry I wasn't able to make a video out of it, but the article is pretty detailed, so it's shorter than watching the video. The video would have been 40 minutes, and this is now compiled to a 14-minute read. So if you read it, it'll take you 14 minutes. If you watch the video, it'll take you 40 minutes. Now, what is interesting in terms of how I approached the interview with John McAfee, was to focus on one thing that perhaps is of interest to my subscribers here on YouTube, and that is the fact that he's on the run. And being on the run, he's trying to evade the United States government. Hello, Jay. So he's trying to evade the United States government and primarily the IRS. And it's interesting to see what precautions he's done and how he's being chased around all over the world, and what precautions he's taking and what he's doing, and what can we learn from that as it applies to our own privacy, which he claims we can't have anymore. So John McAfee says there's no longer a chance of privacy now. It's too late. And I hear people say that all the time, and unfortunately, you do not have the same profile as a John McAfee. He's a famous person. We all have different needs when it comes to our own information security needs and our own privacy needs. And so it's not good to generalize what he says and apply it to your life, because for one, you're not going to be in the same boat. Well, one of the differences is that John McAfee is famous, that if you mention his name, many people will recognize it. Whereas, even just to complain about McAfee antivirus. So, he's going to be known just from the product. So, anyone who works with computers will know his name. Now, because of that, then there is a certain element of privacy that he cannot use, and that happens to be pseudo-anonymity. So he can't go on the internet and be pseudo-anonymous because you see his face and you say, oh, you are John Mac? You're not John Mac. You're John McAfee, because I can see your face, I recognize your face, and you can't really hide. So he has that limitation that many of you don't. And this is one of the things that I suggest in terms of privacy, is one of the things that I want you to all think about is always about pseudo-anonymity, where you present a different persona on the internet, different from your real name, and you will likely have a real name persona on the internet, but you have to create a different one and create a different identity and different behavior even. And this is what John McAfee was a master of, and this is something we can really learn from him. John McAfee is the master of disinformation. To be honest, this is in real life. It's probably one of the biggest things that you can learn from him, just watching his behavior and watching what he does, is that he is so good at disinformation. In fact, he said it himself. He said, I labeled him as the Jason Bourne, the real life Jason Bourne. That was my title of my article. John McAfee, a real life Jason Bourne. That's the article title. So again, that's in the description. Please read that and hit that. What do they call it on there? Wave. This is on Medium. They don't. It's kind of like a like. So hit that and read the article, and we'll talk about that. That aspect. Disinformation, which he's such an expert at, and I'll tell you some of the things that I actually did, and kind of requires a lot of pre-thinking to do what he does. To be able to plan out so much disinformation in advance and being able to do that. And he said in the video, during the interview, that often he will spend, he will look at his posts on social media and plan it out. I think he plans it out daily, what he's going to post on social media. And he's very, very careful to make sure that he posts sometimes conflicting things on social media, and he does it for disinformation. So this is a very, very big thing with him. One of the things that he said, which is kind of interesting, is that he is fond of Gmail. Gmail to him is the safest email he can use, which is kind of like, weird to many of you, especially since we're trying to always avoid Google, and he decided that he's going to use Gmail, and one of the things that we'll discuss that too. There's a lot we're going to discuss, and that's one of them, because again, it depends on what your impression is of your own needs, and I'm going to tell you why it might work for many of you to use Gmail, even though you may not trust Google. So we'll talk about that. I myself use a lot of Gmail accounts because it's great for pseudo anonymity. So I myself have a lot of Gmail accounts. Especially that's not me. So I have a lot of that. So it's the only place where it's so easy to set up a basically pseudo anonymous account. So does he know emails can get beaconed? Actually, not the way he's going to use it. No, AMG, he is not going to get beaconed. No, that's you can ask that later. Now he's very smart about a lot of this, and he has a very big picture understanding of cybersecurity, not too dissimilar from how I approach my own situation here. Again, he deals with a different threat, and his understanding of the technology is similar to my understanding. He sometimes will exaggerate, just to make a point, and that's a little bit part of the disinformation. But in the end, what he says is based on the same things that I know. And I'm actually glad that, I was maybe thinking there's something I didn't know that he knew, and that would put me at a disadvantage. And so far that didn't turn out to be the case. It seems like we were pretty much in sync about what he was talking about. No, that drafts folder approach is different. Anyway, I'll get into the Gmail. I'll get into the disinformation. I'll get into how he hides his IP address, which kind of explains what AMG was asking about. Can you get beaconed by email, and why he doesn't get beaconed by email? And I know this too. And what he does with radio frequencies, how he does something called some sort of radio jamming that he does. He didn't tell me exactly what he's jamming, but I theorized it in the article. So read that, and you'll see what I theorized on the jamming, and then what his reality is physically, about being tracked in locations and facial recognition, and so on. So will he watch me live? I did not post it on Twitter, and he should be asleep by now. But he'll likely be able to watch the replay. He does follow me on Twitter, so he does follow me on Twitter. So John McAfee does follow me on Twitter. So I will post this video, on Twitter, and then he'll be able to see it because I'm gonna tag him with it. Okay, so. Does JM pay his doctor with XMR? So yes, according to John McAfee, he only pays with Monero. So I'm sure he, hello Glenn F, hello Starlight. He might, obviously get the Monero and buy cash, but hello Livendi. So. Again, for those who just came in here, we're going to follow a little experiment tonight. Do not refer to any kind of disease thing by name. Do not refer to it with a code name and a number. Do not refer to it by the full name. Just for this video, we will try an experiment so that we see if we can control the AI here by using the term CV. Do not refer to anything else but CV. Do not refer to that location, Livendi. Do not. Okay? Instead of talking about that, talk about Shenzhen or some other place where we get phones. Okay? So hello, Drac. Hello, Leroy. So don't refer to any common cold. Don't refer to the common cold with anything other than CV. CV. YouTube will in fact demonetize anyone who talks too much about CV. Okay, so I can only talk about it in passing. Otherwise, the algorithm says we're going to demonetize you and not share your video. So just hello, Wayne. How are you doing, Wayne? So CV it is. Okay. So meme connect. Okay. Thank you, Stargazer. So okay. So yeah. So anyway, well, before I do that, before I continue with, hopefully it'll be an interesting discussion of what we can apply from what I learned from John McAfee during the John McAfee interview last Monday. Let me just do a plug, and that is this. So, yeah. Here, let me open it up for you with apps. Oops, let me just clear the screen there. There. Okay, so I have a video on this. The video's done. It's sitting in my channel. I haven't released the video for obvious reasons. If I release the video now, no one will watch it. So I don't know if things are quiet enough by tomorrow. Maybe I'll release the video in the morning. Okay? Maybe it will be ready. I can release it in the morning. We'll kind of see, what the world situation is. If I wake up in the morning and there's some sort of panic and everyone's all riled up because they're out there trying to buy toilet paper, and then I will hold the video. But this is what I'm going to talk about. And this currently is the phone that I put in my pocket. Okay, so fortunately, in spite of all the issues with the world, I have a stack of them here. So I have many phones here that are able to be made into these. That just arrived, so I haven't processed them yet. I've sold every one of the ones I've had before. So there you go. So Rob, does the G7 support TOTP apps without using Google Play? It supports Authy. So there's Authy. You can see Authy in the corner here where my finger is. Yeah, it supports Authy. So now you can use Google Authenticator. However, Authy is easier to use than Google Authenticator. In fact, Google Authenticator and Authy is the same. So when somebody says use Google Authenticator, you can use Authy. If somebody says use Authy, you can use Google Authenticator. So this is a daily driver phone. This is a daily driver phone. So just plugging it in during this broadcast. You can watch the video when I release it, maybe tomorrow morning. But in any case, it will be, this is a Moto G7 Play that I've customized with a AOSP, Android Open Source, Android 10. This is running Android 10. And I customized it. And so it's customized to be de-Googled. So this is a de-Googled phone. I was talking about it in general in my last video. My new video will actually show you how I set this up. And this, I'm not teaching you how to set it up. It's kind of, I'm not going to take responsibility for teaching you how to set it up, because even I took a long time to learn how to set it up. So I've actually hard bricked it where it, I couldn't even turn it on. And it took a long time to figure it out. But I've now learned everything to do with this. I can kind of can hard brick it, do things with it, and I can always restore it. And it's kind of scary if you haven't done it before that you might lose the phone. So now that I'm comfortable with it, I can see now that it's fairly reliable enough for me that I know how to restore it in all situations. Okay? Is that the one I sent you the link on? No. Does Yelp Store not work anymore? I'm not using Yelp Store. Phone text signal and Uber all I need on phone. Yes, but Uber driver doesn't work. Okay, Uber driver doesn't work. Uber works. Lyft does not work at all. But Uber works. Uber driver does not. Lyft driver or main app does not work. So nothing Google works except for Waze. Nothing Google works. So if you want to run any kind of Google app, it doesn't work. And I don't recommend that you install anything Facebook. Anything associated with Facebook, including Instagram and WhatsApp. Okay, so yes, this is a de-Googled phone, and in general, what I'm saying here is, depending on what your needs are, you make the choice based on price and based on the device. So you choose the device, and then the solution comes based on the device. So for example, I use Moto G7s and Moto G7 Plays. This is what I customize: a Moto G7 Play or a Moto G7. If you say, well, I don't want that, I want some Samsung Galaxy. Well, if you're going to use Samsung Galaxy, you have to use eFoundation. So that's the other AOSP that you can use for Samsung Galaxies. Somebody says, well, I want a Pixel, Google Pixel of some various model. And in which case, then you wouldn't want to use Graphene OS. Okay? So it depends on what it is that you're targeting. I chose this phone, a Moto G7 Play, because it's new. This phone is from 2019. It's hard to find support for a new phone on Lineage OS or any of the other AOSPs. So I found a new phone that was reasonably priced. It's going to cost $1,000. So this is fairly inexpensive. And so I have these in stock for already pre-configured for $269. And that's a very reasonable priced phone for what it can do, and it's already de-Googled and all set to go. So for example, an eFoundation phone starts at anywhere from $299 at the lowest and up to $699 for the highest level phone. And the lowest level phone will be old. This one is a new phone. So it's a matter of choice. So I made this decision to use this. Same with the Pixel. If you're going to use Graphene OS, the phones are going to be old for Pixel 2. This is newer. So and this is running Android 10. So this is Android 10. Very few phones have Android 10. Only the brand new ones. This one is Android 10. Okay? So if you're interested in this, and just doing a plug, I do have a stock of these that I've that I'm going to make. See, there's a stock of G7s here, so I have a bunch of them right there, and I'm going to de-Google them, as you will see in the video that I will release next. Okay. So anyway, hopefully that explains that. I still also have Ubuntu Touch Nexus 5s. I have a stock of Nexus 5, so I can now supply you with Nexus 5, 16 gigabytes and 32 gigabytes. So I have that as well if you want to do that. Okay? So anyway, what did I miss in the comments here? I missed some contest. What phone was we talking about? You'll see the video tomorrow, if I release it tomorrow. And then you can ask me again next week. CV and home working is getting security concerns and shows need for your VPN. Yes, Paul. How are you doing, Paul? That's correct. So anyway, Disinformation King. let me just tell you some stories about John McAfee that hold on, signal dropping there. Hold on a second here. Signal dropped. Okay, okay, it's stable now. Okay. Any idea if your prices will drop at all? How can I drop the prices unless I drop what I pay for them? I have to buy the phone, so it's... what application does a Gmail account have besides the capability to chat on your... What application does a Gmail account have besides the ability to chat on your broadcast? Are you talking about here on YouTube? It's set up a pseudo-anonymous account, which I believe you do. Don't use it for anything else if you want. Yeah, set up a, pseudo-anonymous accounts are fine. Set up a pseudo-anonymous account and always use a VPN with it, and that's it. Try to mix it up. If you want to create more identity hiding, have multiple Gmail accounts. I have a lot of Gmail accounts, so I try not to mix them up. So I'm going to have a Gmail account for social media logins, Gmail account for Twitter, Gmail account for this, for that. You can plan it out yourself. Again, it depends on the risk, and don't mix them up. Don't mix them up, and always, when you are on the browser, always do remove accounts so they're not connected. Later, Jellyfish, I'm going to talk about Gmail later, but let me just talk about disinformation, and just to give you an idea of the level of disinformation that John McAfee is good at. That really, it blows my mind. He must have been if he weren't successful as a tech guy, if he weren't successful in what he was doing in tech, he could have been a big scammer. I think McAfee would have survived as a very successful scammer. He is so good at it. So this is one of the things he did last year. This happened August. So so the story is, he was in the Dominican Republic. So he was on his yacht, and he was not going to go to the United States because the IRS was chasing him down. And so he was on his yacht, and he was talking about cybersecurity, cryptocurrencies, not cybersecurity, cryptocurrencies. It was on his yacht, and going on social media talking about cryptocurrencies all day, promoting cryptocurrencies, and basically flaunting his relationship with the IRS. And I'm sure the IRS didn't like that. Anyway, he went to the Dominican Republic, and the Dominican Republic held him and put him in jail, and took his guns away because he had guns on his boat, and then took his boat, his yacht, his guns, and put him in jail. He was in jail for 4 days in the Dominican Republic. And then this is the funny part. By the time that they were apparently very nice to him in jail, but on the 4th day, when they released him from jail, the Dominican Republic basically said, we'll treat you to a feast. They provide him, with a feast for VIPs for him and all the people in his boat, and then before they kicked him out of the country. It was a motor yacht. So how he finagled his way in the Dominican Republic is very interesting, because from being arrested to being friends with the people who arrested him, how did he do that? And then, they didn't arrest him in Cuba and in the Bahamas. So he fled to London. he fled to London, and when he was in London, he said, "Okay, I think I'm going to be chased here in London." He was feeling the heat that the United States government was probably planning on getting him extradited, and so he was afraid of that. And yet he knew that that there's a process, and there's a bureaucratic process, and it takes a while. It takes a while for an extradition or anything like that to occur, and he knew how long it would take, and he disappeared again, and he claimed he was in Iceland. Well, he didn't claim anything. He just said, "I'm over here," and then somebody said, "You're in Iceland." They doxed him based on some clues in a restaurant, and said that's in Iceland, and it was like a very isolated part of Iceland, and they spotted him there apparently. So anyway, during this time, this is the interesting part of the story that is not in the interview, but is so interesting, it's just amazing. During this time, hello Savvy, during this time, he was saying on Twitter how he lost all of his money, that he needed to make money, that he was basically broke. So he started out on Twitter, this was around, I'm going to guess, August. So while this was going on with is running away, he was saying he was broke and needed work. So even while he was in Iceland, he was saying, "I need work. I'm going to promote your cryptocurrency or whatever you want me to promote because I'm broke." That's what he said. So, most of us will probably look at that and say, "Oh wow, fall from grace here. Somebody who was a mega millionaire is now broke." And then someone turned out on the internet, this is on Twitter, and he was the China Zombie Research Center or something like that. China Zombie Research Center, or if I don't have the acronym right, it doesn't matter. Just the story is what's important. So there's certainly a China and a zombie and a research center on there. So China Zombie Research Center. And China Zombie Research Center went to John McAfee and said, "We want you to promote our cryptocurrency. We're very interested in zombies, and we want a cryptocurrency for zombies." I don't know what it was supposed to be used for. That we believe in zombies. We research zombies. Kind of related maybe to the CV thing happening right now. and we want somebody to promote our crypto because, when the zombies come, we'll pay them in crypto. I don't get it. Okay, so this was so funny. So John McAfee said, "Well, this is crazy. Who's gonna buy a crypto on zombies? Who's gonna buy crypto on zombies?" But then he announced, "Yes, but they paid me $200,000 to promote crypto for the China Zombie Research Center." So they paid me in crypto $200,000, and 200,000 plus they paid me to have all this crypto now as a result of what I've done for them. So I have a lot of crypto from China Zombie Research Center, he says. So I'm going to write a white paper on this crypto to promote the China Zombie Research Center. So he then said, I'm going to come up with this white paper shortly, and he did. So he wrote this white paper. When you read the cryptocurrency, he writes a white paper. So somebody writes a white paper. So he wrote the white paper on the zombie coin, whatever it was, some zombie coin, and he said, "Who is stupid enough to buy this coin? Who would be stupid enough to believe anything about sucking zombies?" And that's basically the white paper was a one-pager full of insults to the China Zombie Research Center. And then, of course, the China Zombie Research Center went on Twitter and said, "What did you do? We paid you, McAfee. We paid you. Why are you speaking against the China Zombie Research Center? We paid you, and we're going to sue you." And then McAfee responded on Twitter, "Who cares? I've been sued 40 times, because of my name, McAfee. I've been sued. Everyone sues them even for the antivirus. So even though it has nothing to do with it anymore, just because it's his name. So who cares? I don't care. You sue me if you want. And then and there was a banter between them, between the China Zombie Research Center and McAfee for a couple of months. It was, very intense. It's like, wow, this, McAfee, what did he do here with his China Zombie Research Center? And why did he even take this contract? Well, he needed the money. So the justification was, well, I need the money. I'm going to keep it. Okay. Then he announced something that was so funny. This is the punchline to this. The punchline to this. Apparently, he said that some three-letter agency paid the China Zombie Research Center to find out McAfee's location. So somebody actually, he claimed that some government agency, CIA, somebody, paid the China Zombie Research Center some amount of money, a lot, maybe that 200,000, some big amount of money, to find out where McAfee is located, because, he's in hiding. And now that the China Zombie Research Center is, having a problem with McAfee, then this was the chance. They were going to get. So they were going to get the information out of China Zombie Research Center, and that's when McAfee went on Twitter and was laughing so hard, because he said, "Well, how do you pay China Zombie Research Center to give you my location when I am China Zombie Research Center?" The whole thing was disinformation. He created the whole story from the beginning, from the fact that he was broke to all the things with China Zombie Research Center and all that. And he, in fact, owns China Zombie Research Center. And my goodness, that talk about disinformation, to get even to that level of disinformation where somebody actually paid the China Zombie Research Center just to get his location. It's just crazy stuff. Does anyone have this kind of skill with disinformation? Do you know anyone, at this level? It's incredible. So one of the things that he does, he went to, this is in my write-up in the story. This is, hello fake name, this was right up in my story. He said, and I actually knew this when it was happening, because I'm smart enough to know the disinformation that he does. He said, we're going to do a meetup in Munich. We're going to do a meetup in Munich. So anybody who wants to do a meetup with me in Munich, let me know. And we're going to meet at this beer garden. So he showed the place. It was apparently a famous beer garden in Munich. And said, we're going to meet here. And come at 5 p.m. and wear a red scarf. This is on social media. So everyone was like, hello, I'm in it. So everyone was commenting on social media. You're so stupid, McAfee. Why would you reveal your location that you're going to be at Munich at exactly 5 p.m. and wear a red scarf? And some of the people actually believed all that. And I was like laughing so hard when I was looking at this, because this is the disinformation king here. He's the king. Okay, this information king will not meet you at 5 p.m. in Munich. And this is the funny thing. And he admits in my interview, this is the first time he actually admitted this. So during my interview, he admitted that he was not in Munich. That was like a month ago. He was in Munich the month before. So he already left Munich. He went to Munich, left Munich, took a few pictures, posted on social media a month later and said, let's meet up here. And people actually believed he was there. He was not there. He was not there. So I mean, it's if you start to think about it, how do you apply this to your life? He lately was posting pictures of himself eating oysters, and he said that we have oysters for breakfast every day. So he finally again admitted in my interview that oysters have no name and oysters have no location. So why was he posting a pic of oysters? Everything that he does is well thought out. And it's like, why was he putting a picture of oysters? What is the relevance? Is it to say that I'm so rich I can, have oysters every day? Or was it because he's trying to, in fact, he has so many posts on the relating to the Black Sea and to the Baltic Sea. So he's trying to put himself near some coast. The Ukraine with the Black Sea, and maybe Latvia or Estonia on the Baltic Sea, because he was putting all that. Oysters somewhere near some sort of ocean somewhere on either side. And that's what he was trying to imply there. Though he may be in the middle without any water next to him, he now claims he's in Belarus. Belarus is, like where Minsk is in the center of all that, and it's in the middle of both the Black Sea and the Baltic Sea. So maybe he was trying to say, "Hey, I'm over here," cause confusion. He claims he's in Belarus. Is he really there or not? Who really knows? And this is kind of the interesting thing about disinformation, how he's using that. Now, how do you apply this? How do you apply this to your life? We ourselves, we don't necessarily use our real name on social media. Some of you do, some of you don't. And if you don't, then you can create multiple personas. Some of you can't change yourself, though. Some of you are so politically driven, for example, that you can't say anything to change your political belief in a post, for example. If you're a liberal, can you actually get yourself to post something conservative and vice versa? The problem is, for most of you, you can't, in which case you're never going to be masters of disinformation. Because you have to have the guts to not use a real name, use a fake name. This is social media. You feel like you're lying. Who cares? This is not real life, people. This is the zucking internet. Is DuckDuckGo lying? No, DuckDuckGo is not lying. No, DuckDuckGo is fine. You can use, I use DuckDuckGo. So, this is, do you understand it? Do you have the guts that it takes to do disinformation? I know somebody, that comes to my broadcast that is a master of disinformation. He's not here right now. But yeah, there's a guy that comes here. He's a master of disinformation. And he certainly is much more knowledgeable about disinformation than I will ever be. And but if you compare it to somebody like McAfee, that's like, wow, you can learn from that. You can learn from that, because such mastery of disinformation can actually help you with privacy, because it confuses the issue. People trying to do data collection on you and getting incorrect information about you will never be able to profile you. So it's a very, very important technique, and hopefully you learn from this. And I bow to his expertise. This is not a waste of time for me to interview. This is not a waste of time to interview somebody like John McAfee. It was, the things he admitted to me about the truth about the disinformation. He never actually admitted to it on Twitter. There was an implication that he was doing disinformation, but it was never confirmed until he confirmed it in my interview. So 50% of what he posts on social media, he says, 50% of what he posts on social media is disinformation. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. what's your take on recent LVI attacks on Intel, and is it really not patchable? Probably not. Yeah, probably not. Then again, is that a threat that you have to worry about? It depends on your threat profile. Watch my video on OPSEC, because some of you are worried about different things. And is John McAfee worried about IME, Intel IME? No, because to do an attack on John McAfee on IME means you have to know his location. So by not knowing somebody's location, it kind of prevents some of these attacks anyway. So you have to understand that, if you're not on the same network, you can't really be attacked on IME or any of these CPU attacks. It's not really possible unless you're working in an office and the hacker's in the office. So for normal situations, it's not going to matter if you take the precautions that I always talk about here. Okay? I would be interested in a list of data countermeasures. If Savvy, again, I cannot give you a specific solution for every single person, because you have to determine your own threats, and you have to decide what threats do I have and what I have to defend against. If your threats are government related, you have to do it like a McAfee. I don't worry about government related threats. I just worry about government related mass surveillance. I'm not concerned about a direct attack. Active surveillance by the government is not something that I concern myself with, because they're not going to get anything anyway. Since I don't do anything that's worthy of that. So if they want to watch my network and see if I'm actually hacking anyone, they can do that. That doesn't bother me. So, but if you're I do not want to participate in mass surveillance. I do not want to participate in big data collection by any party, including private parties like Google, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook. Certainly not Facebook. And all those properties. So I do not want to participate in that, and I think that's a big invasion of my privacy, and so that is very important to me. So you decide your own threats, and you decide if you need to do something along the line of what McAfee's done. And if you understand the stories that I've been telling you about what he's been doing, even with locations and how he's hinting at different things. If you follow him on Twitter, it's more enjoyable when you watch McAfee on Twitter and you understand that 50% of what he says is actually disinformation, because it's actually fun to guess. Is that disinformation? It's not. Is that disinformation? Not. Does John use a Linux system? I do not know, Jellyfish, but he says he does not use a phone. McAfee says if he uses a phone, they're going to track him. So he does not use a phone. So I suspected at one point that maybe he's lying about that he may be using an Android without a SIM card. So I thought maybe that's what he was doing. But I can tell you this. During my interview, I saw the reflection of the computer on his sunglasses. It was a computer. I saw the reflection of the computer on his sunglasses. So he has all this recording equipment like me, has, the same kind of deal with his microphones and all that. And it's on a computer, and I saw a PC, desktop. It was a desktop. Looked like a desktop monitor. And so that's what his setup was. It was a desktop monitor. So given that, then he wasn't using a phone then. Now, does he on the side, without telling us, use a phone without a SIM card? Yeah, if he takes certain precautions, he may be able to use that, but I don't think so. And I'll tell you about the second thing that he talked about, which was very interesting. Do you have a list of phones that can run Linux? There are very few. Very few. Meme Connect. So the Pine phone. So they have a small number on sale. You may be able to catch more. They have a small number on sale on the old batch. I think they found like 50 of them. So if those haven't been sold already, they're probably gone now, but you probably buy one of those. And for the most part, I sell Nexus 5s that I preload Ubuntu Touch on and running Linux Ubuntu Touch on it. That's about the most you can do right now. Librem 5, not in stock. I won't get my Librem 5 till, likely October, if I even get it. So at the moment, there's nothing to buy. It'll be May before you can probably get a Pine phone if you don't get this last batch here. So maybe May, June before you can get a Pine phone. So the Pine phone is the one you can get the soonest. In the meantime, what I'm doing is using these phones. I'm customizing a Android. This is the de-Googled Android that I'm making here. There's absolutely no Google on here. No Google on here whatsoever. So no Google on my phone. Been thinking about picking up one of your Moto phones, but have you experimented with Graphene OS at all? There's nothing special about Graphene OS. It's the same thing that I'm doing here. They're not doing anything different from what I'm doing, so it's about the same thing. So if it's probably equal, but they only work with Pixel phones. I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you're stuck with a specific phone like a Pixel, then you're going to use Graphene OS for that. If you want to use Samsung Galaxy, use eFoundation. If you want mine's going to be Moto G7s and Moto G7 Plays. And the reason I chose this is the phones are new. Okay, so these are 2019 phones, and so they have new features, and rather than using an older Pixel or an older Samsung Galaxy. So for that reason, that's what I chose. But if you, whatever method easy, do I have to explain everything that I do on there? So you watch the video and you see. So did the switch on the phone get taken care of? You mean on the Pine phone? No. Is there a programming language that is more secure than others? No. Probably the reflection on sunglasses also by JM Design. Did the switch issue on the phone get fixed? Okay. Anyway, so I have a video on this. You will see this in detail with the apps I have on here. You will see this exact phone. Since I just did a video of this phone with whatever you see on it right now. That's the video. That's what the video is about. And you'll see all the apps I loaded on here and what I did to configure it. Obviously, if you try to do this on your own, none of this works like that. You have to to do a lot of things by command line. So there's no side loading. Side loading is something you do on twerp. And there's no twerp on this. Okay? Once upon a time, were you and JM friend? No, I have not. Starlight, no, I have not met John McAfee before the interview. This is the first time. I mean, I've been talking with him and Mrs. McAfee for the last month and a half on email. But I have not met them before. Neither was he following my Twitter before. He's following my Twitter now. So this is the first time I met him. So, and he's a very genuine kind of person. So I really enjoyed it. No wonder, he likes having drinks with his friends, and you know, it would have been a kind of situation where I would have had a drink with him if I saw him in real life. When John was manufacturing, killing, eating poop through a hammock. Okay, I guess I don't have to show that. Okay, so one of the things that he says, did you try to get the fingerprint sensor working? No, I did not. You can use the shape security where you enter the shape. It doesn't bother me that the fingerprint doesn't work. I don't really want fingerprints to work anyway. So you use the shape password to do it instead. So that works fine. So I did not try to get the fingerprint sensor to work. So I believe that's an issue with Android 10 on all Android 10 devices running all this so far. I think that has to be customized code by the manufacturer. Okay. So anyway, let me talk about the next aspect of what John McAfee was saying. There's so many, so I'm just going to pick a few. Hello, Barry. There's so many. Well, thank you, Starlight. It's kind of nice to. I mean, it is super cool to have interviewed him and to actually meet with a person who, was pretty legit and very, he was kind of a cool guy. He was a cool guy. So the problem was he couldn't see my face because my video wasn't feeding to him. I could see him, he couldn't see me. So that was not good. I wanted him to see me as we talked, and it didn't turn out that way. So anyway, yes, I have a failing here when it comes to the video, and that's why I don't have a video. But he did share the tweet with his 1 million followers. So in case some of you think I didn't actually interview him, you can see that no, that is not true. I did in fact interview him, and he got to see. I'm sure he read that article that I wrote. Anyway, the next aspect of it that was interesting about what he was doing at his location, wherever this location is. By the way, I said, aren't you afraid? Because I was referring to him as Jason Bourne, and if you watch the Jason Bourne movies, which is kind of cool to watch because, all the surveillance and all that with three-letter agencies. He was one of the things he was doing was in the Jason Bourne movie was getting spotted by surveillance cameras and train stations and banks and so on. And I said, aren't you afraid that you're walking around town and, somebody spots you on a camera and then spots your location and reports it to some three-letter agency? And again, he understands the reality that some of us don't, but I'm not certain it's 100% what he's saying, because he said basically, from what I gather from what he said, that he doesn't hang out in the big cities. He stays out in the rural area. So wherever he is, he's in some rural area somewhere where they don't have a camera surveillance infrastructure. Iceland was an excellent choice, by the way. Iceland is well known to be one of those places that even Jason Bourne used in the movie, because in Iceland, the people are very spread out, and you probably could have places where there's no Wi-Fi triangulation because all the Wi-Fis are so spread out. There's so few people in Iceland. Aren't there like just 1 million people in the entire Iceland? I think only has 1 million people. There's so few people on there that and they're so spread out, and a lot of the places are mountainous and rural and very few roads. And McAfee implied that he got there by helicopter because he's a pilot, that he flew there. That's the implication, that he flew out of there as well, but we don't know for sure. But anyway, playlist, well, he's on my channel. He may have been on some other channel, but he was on my channel. So anyway, the question is, what about facial recognition? So he actually admitted to me that he does wear disguises, that he even wears a mask. Sometimes he will wear a mask, he says, and he goes to places without. So I'm imagining that if he goes to a busy city like Munich, he's going to be more concerned about his appearance, and he has body doubles. He actually has real body doubles. So that's a great idea. You go to a city like London and you have body doubles, and so you create fake signals about where you are, and then you yourself hide your identity by covering up your appearance and wear sunglasses. Because facial recognition is still based on a lot about the eyes. So if you notice, John McAfee is always wearing sunglasses. So I didn't ask him that, but I think he's, of course, he has enough pictures that you can derive that from some other pictures of his, but he's actually always wearing sunglasses. So oysters around Iceland, he's implying, I guess, that oysters were around Ukraine somewhere. I think he's trying to imply that, these are Ukraine oysters. So, I think he's not in Iceland. If you ask me about, my idea of his location, I think he's somewhere near those areas that I mentioned: Ukraine, Belarus, Estonia, Latvia. One of those. So, hola, Kathy Anderson. Kathy Anderson still doesn't change her name. So that's that's what he said about facial recognition. Now here's the problem, though, and I don't know how he's going to get around this, because even somebody like me, I mean, who am I? I'm a no one, right? I'm a nobody, but yet someone actually recognized me. One of my followers on social media actually recognized me at a restaurant and approached me. And I'm a nobody. So, isn't that interesting? I have 30-some thousand followers on Periscope, and 12,000 or so here, around close to 12,000 here. And but even from the Periscope one, I was recognized at a restaurant. Now, if you're John McAfee, the chances of getting recognized somewhere and someone taking a picture of you at that location will reveal your location. Stargazer, night owl, stay thirsty, my friend. Okay. Like John Smith. That would be good. So, who's Star? Star, do I know you, Star? Are you somebody with a different name? Did you change name, or what meal were you eating? Anyway, I am a nobody. Anyway, so I mean, McAfee has 1 million followers. 1 million followers on Twitter alone. So, hold on. Let me approve that, Brad B. So if somebody finds you somewhere and takes a photograph of you or posts a picture on Facebook and you're in the background, let's say you're in the same restaurant as McAfee, and somebody has a Facebook account, and then they take your picture, and holy zuck, you're going to lose your privacy fast. I mean, what is he going to do? Stay at home all day? So it's going to be like having CV, where you have to have social distancing. So kind of crazy. No, Come on, Drac. Social distancing. I did not go anywhere, Drac. I've been at home. I didn't go anywhere. No adult beverage night. None of that. That's all suspended. I'm not going to be anywhere. So anyway, so one of the things that I guess Playlist doesn't like McAfee. I learn from McAfee. Playlist. There's a lot to learn from him. So anyway, that worries me for him. Facial recognition. Obviously, that's kind of dangerous to get caught with that because of Facebook. So if somebody in the background took a photo and he's in there, then the location will be determined immediately. Then he would have to, leave again and go someplace else. So it's kind of it's not the safest. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about before I run out of time here is his radio jamming devices. Radio jamming devices. And what is it for? So he said on the video, and he said this on Twitter a few times, but he said on my interview with him that his current location is surrounded by very advanced radio jammers. Okay? So, I mean, wouldn't you be curious about the radio jammers? Wouldn't you, here's Kelp again. Here's Kelp again from, always like Mr. Law Enforcement Kelp. Law Enforcement Kelp back on track. So, it's, what is this radio jamming about? And he seemed to be concerned about some very advanced radio equipment from the three-letter agencies being able to spy his signal. He said something about the fact that your Wi-Fi signal could be read up to 35 miles away. So, well, I'd like to find out exactly what that means. What is he jamming his signals for? So I made some statements in my article about what he could be jamming. And I mean, as far as my knowledge, and there may be things I don't have any knowledge about. I was hoping maybe he responds to what I wrote and give me some feedback on what he's jamming, but maybe later on I'll ask him again. But what is interesting is what purpose would jamming do to your house? Let me just tell you, for my sake, if I wanted to jam the signals at my house, what it would be for. So in my case here, I know that these phones, all of your phones, are sending out a probe. So anyone with a cell phone right now, you're probably watching me on a cell phone. Your cell phones are sending out a probe on an Android device many times a second. So this is sending out a signal. You can actually trap the signal on Wireshark. The signal actually can be traced on any packet sniffer, and you can actually see how the frame is made, and I can tell you exactly how it's done. And there's different kinds of probes that this device sends. This device sends a probe that says, I am MAC address, whatever the address of the phone, are my favorite Wi-Fi's here, and then it names the actual Wi-Fi's that are the favorite. So let's say your Wi-Fi is called home. Is home nearby? And this is one is sending a probe. It's also saying anybody else out there, and then the Wi-Fi routers. All of you have Wi-Fi routers. Those are also sending out signals constantly to saying, "Oh yeah, I'm over here." Wi-Fi A, Wi-Fi B, Wi-Fi home, and it's sending out many times a second a beacon signal announcing the MAC address again, and that information is picked up by your Android phones. All of your Android phones are picking up that beacon signal. So this is sending out a probe, and then the Wi-Fi is sending out constantly a beacon signal announcing the existence of the Wi-Fi. So when you go to your phone and you look at the Wi-Fi list, that is actually in response to the beacon. So you go in here and say, look at Wi-Fi, and then you see a list of Wi-Fis. That's a response to the beacons. Well, that's what Google uses for. That's what Google uses for location tracking. So what they do is to say what Wi-Fis are near you. So they detect that announcement, the beacon announcement with the MAC address, and then the signal strength. And then it says, while you're telling me the Wi-Fi's around you and the signal strength, please tell me your current GPS position as well. So your phone reports the GPS position and then the Wi-Fi's around you. So not just you, anyone with a phone. So if there are 5 members of your family, all of you have phones, 5 of you are sending a signal to Google saying these are the Wi-Fi's near me. And based on signal strength, then they're saying that Wi-Fi is so far away and so over there. So they can actually map every single Wi-Fi in the entire world. There's a map of every Wi-Fi router everywhere in the world. Okay? So, given this, if he starts to say, I'm going to block the signal off the Wi-Fi's so they don't announce themselves, which you can do. The technique for doing that is also well known. There's a way then to also make the phone not detect any Wi-Fi, so it stops doing an announcement. Then you can also jam the signal, so then there's too much noise and an external player will not be, because if you make a stronger signal in the background signal will not be able then to see the Wi-Fi signal from the phones. And if they have some special detection equipment that can detect Wi-Fi's from 35 miles away, can you imagine you can fly drones in an area and say, we suspect that you're over here. If you're within 35 miles of this location, we'll fly a drone up in the sky and detect your Wi-Fi. So if that's what they can do, then his technique will work. Is there something else he's doing? That I don't know. Is there something else he's blocking? I don't know. But one of the things that I want to do in a future video is to show you how you can block GPS. You can block GPS very, very easily. And I have a transmitter. I can do that. I can block GPS in such a small area that no one's going to be able to report me and say that I blocked GPS, as long as I don't disrupt anyone else. So if I don't have enough of a range, then no one will notice. But if anyone comes into my house, my Wi-Fi's will not report a GPS location by jamming the GPS. You don't actually jam the GPS. Well, what you do is you spoof GPS so that if you come to my house, I can say that you're actually in Iceland. This is very easy to do. Very easy to do. So I have the equipment for that. So this is not a hard thing to do at all. So, so that could be one of the things he's doing as well. I mean, he could jam GPS signals. He could jam, if he's in a rural area, he can jam a much wider zone that doesn't affect neighbors. So if you're in a rural area and let's say a neighbor is a quarter of a mile away, you can jam pretty much the whole area with a strong signal so that no data leaks out. So that's kind of interesting, to think about. It's hard for me. I'm in the middle of a city. If I send a strong signal, I will jam my neighbor, and then, that can be detected. If you jam your neighbor then complains to somebody from the FCC comes and detects a signal and says, you're doing some illegal transmitting here. So would you say 35 or 3.5? He said 35, Jellyfish. Specifically, he said 35. How does GPS spoofing work? Well, the satellites send the GPS signals, which are fixed signals, at a certain frequency. So if you know what the frequencies are, Drac, you can send a fake signal on those frequencies, which are stronger than the GPS signals, because the signals on the GPS are not very strong. They're up in satellite. So it's very easy to have a signal stronger than the GPS. Okay? IoT devices act as relays for sending stolen data from your home devices. Good, Mel Gibson. Good that you know that. I don't install any IoT devices that I didn't make. All of my IoT devices, including my cameras, are made by me. My alarm system, my cameras, I made everything. I wrote the software for all of them. So, in a way, I'm kind of similar to McAfee. I do my own tech stuff. So, I don't have to worry about getting hacked that way. I have detection things that can detect anybody on my network. So if some of you are worried about IME or things like that, the first thing you got to do is get on your network. So if you can block them from the network, then you're on your way. Guys, there's been hundreds of you that have watched the broadcast so far. So if you like what I've been talking about and like my channel, please hit that like on the video so that YouTube wants to share it. So if you like what I'm saying, just hit like. If you don't like, hit the dislike. What would you recommend as a good spoofing app? I don't recommend any spoofing app. Are your cameras still for sale? Jellyfish, I don't have any constructed anymore. They, I am not. I'm not actively selling it at the moment because I'm focused on other things right now. We'll see, because there didn't seem to be a demand for it. There didn't seem to be a demand for my camera, so I said, if nobody wants them, I'll use them. So I have a lot of cameras in my house. Okay. Look, Playlist says, okay, I'll show you that comment. Playlist says, McAfee is full of shit and is throwing out red herrings. Did you miss the beginning of the video, Playlist? He just told you, I just told you what he said to me in my interview, that 50% of what he posts on social media is deliberate disinformation. Deliberate disinformation. So Playlist is actually missing that point. So I talked to him. He's like actually a nice guy and very authentic in my mind. And yes. So he posts outrageous things on the internet on purpose. On purpose. So and their scalp doing the same thing. So okay. So if you so that's. He admitted in my video about all the disinformation that he intentionally posts on there, and he thinks of it thoroughly before he posts it on social media. So he has some purpose to the disinformation. He loves disinformation. He's a disinformation king. So if there's anything you ought to learn from him, is how to manage disinformation for your purposes. Learn how to use what I'm telling you here from somebody like him to say, how does this help me? Some of you are so intent on politics. You're going to go on Twitter and talk and say, how you believe in X, Y, and Z politically, and you're going to think that you're going to convince somebody because you keep talking about it on Twitter. In the meantime, you're getting profiled. Well, if that happens, maybe you need to switch it up and create a second account where you do nothing but post the opposite view, if you're smart. So, there's scalp. Okay, so anyway, learn from this, because it's the value is what you learn from this for yourself. This is, don't look at this as, somehow, something about John McAfee's life itself, as much as saying that, I interviewed John McAfee, hoping to learn something from him that I can apply to you, like, not using a phone and all that, and how he handles his cybersecurity. One of the things, two more things I want to talk about, and I'm going to run out of time here, so I'm going to try to make sure I talk about these two things. And one is related to Gmail, and what's the other one? I almost forgot. What he uses to hide his IP address. Two things: Gmail and how he hides his IP address. If I forget what one of them are, just remind me again. So again, how he hides his IP address. He does not use a VPN. And then the next one is Gmail. Let's talk about Gmail first, because it's a very common topic. So why does McAfee like Gmail? Now, understand, you're different from McAfee. He's a famous person, and government is actively tracking him, and so there's active surveillance and active active surveillance going on him that not necessarily happening to any of us. Now, why does Gmail work for him, and can you make Gmail work for you? After giving it some thought, I dislike email in general because let me just tell you again, and just quickly. Hello, Bratwurst Power. Quickly. Email is bad primarily because email is sent out using SMTP. SMTP is the protocol for forwarding emails between message transfer agents, or MTAs. And I have several videos on this, and watch my email videos. I've probably 4 email videos that nobody watches, and they're very important. One of them had 10,000 views, I believe, on Periscope, the live stream. It was a very important live demonstration of email. Email is very dangerous. So the problem with email is it uses a protocol that's plain text. So if you are sending email from, let's say Outlook, and you're talking to somebody on Gmail, the Outlook, which is Microsoft, needs to send the email from the Outlook message, the mail transfer agent for Microsoft, to the mail transfer agent server of Google. So those two have to talk, and those two servers have to talk in a protocol called SMTP. And SMTP is a plain text protocol, so there's nothing hidden there. It tracks your IP address, every route, every IP address ever used, everything every attachment, everything is out in the open there. It's in base 64. There's no encoding. There's no encryption of any sort. It's in plain text. And I can show you, I showed you in the live video that it is in plain text. Okay? So that's the stretch that is always open. Now, in the past, you also have an open connection between you and the server using POP3 or IMAP. So your connection to this server when you're sending emails also open, and somebody in your office can read your email using that open connection, and you can read it on Wireshark, for example. But that's been solved to an extent when you use TLS methods. So a lot of clients, including Gmail clients, now require that you have a TLS connection between you and your device and the server, between your device and the server. So a lot of that side has been solved through TLS. So now the only big opening is in the back end, is that SMTP side where 3-letter agencies can be listening. We are listening to that all day. So they are collecting every email sent out to SMTP. I am sure that's being collected. I am certain they're taking every email found on the internet and stuffing it into the Utah data center. Now, having said that, if you are, let's say give you an example. Let's say you are at a university and you have an email address at the University of Southern California. I actually was in a jury duty with somebody from University of Southern California IT department, and we were talking about this because it's kind of fun to talk about. He was saying to me that people don't know that he can read anybody's email, which is obvious because, we both know this because we run servers. We can read email on Microsoft Exchange, for example. So if you're on a Microsoft Exchange server, you read every email from everyone in the corporation, since it goes to the same Microsoft Exchange server and the email is in plain text. And you can read it and you can go to the file and read every single message. And if they're saying that they're going to be cutting staff by a third, somebody in IT department can read that ahead of time because they can see that traffic if they scan the emails from interesting people like the CEO. So, having said that, you can see that corporate email is very, very bad. Corporate email is very, very bad. So now if you have a choice, would you use your corporate email or will you use Gmail? Well, obviously, if you make an account that's pseudo-anonymous, meaning not your real name, and you make sure that the traffic you get on that email is not your real name, yes, it would be safer to use Gmail for that. So let's say that you're a lawyer and you have a corporate email for your law office, and that is handled by the IT department. Don't use that for anything that's not related to work. For work-related things, for non-work-related things, let's say use Gmail without your real name. Again, don't use your real name. And then what happens then is that your traffic to Gmail is encrypted. So nobody in the office can read it while you're sending traffic to Gmail because of the TLS connection. Now, if you send email to somebody out of Gmail into Yahoo, Microsoft Mail, or back to the law office, yes, that will all be read along the way at some point. Now, this is something that I actually, it was McAfee that made me think about this. And it's actually pretty brilliant when you think about it. And I'm going to tell it to you right now. Do you know that if you use TLS, as most email clients now have TLS for communicating with Gmail, and you have a Gmail account that's actually pseudo-anonymous, and that you're using a VPN, so it never gets a hold of your IP address. Again, VPN is important here. You have to have a VPN. If you're doing this to your Gmail account, and you're talking to somebody also on Gmail, that means every leg is now encrypted. The only one that will read your mail is Google itself. So they're going to look for keywords to try to sell you something. But they don't have any idea who you are, since you're going to be careful never to use your real name in the email. So do you understand what I'm saying here? You can use Google as a secure communication if you understand the limitations. Google to Google, Gmail to Gmail, it's perfect. So if you want some sort of cheap, instead of using Proton Mail, think about that. Do you need Proton Mail? McAfee says Proton Mail is owned by the CIA. He said, I'll never use Proton Mail. He said, that's, CIA property. So he's probably right. I don't know for sure, but I don't use Zuck and Proton Mail. But if you use Gmail to Gmail and two unknown identities talking in Gmail, you're going to get buried in there because there's nothing identifying you if you do not have an IP address on there. And location, obviously. Do you still think we will ever get email as secure as real mail? It used to be secure back because nobody was tracking it before. It used to feel secure, Hoisteen, but of course that's not true anymore. So do you understand how I learned something just by thinking about it based on what McAfee was doing? He was using Gmail in a way. And without me telling him, he emailed me on a Gmail account. So I emailed him back on a Gmail account. It would have been bad for me if I did not use Gmail, because then somebody could track our conversation and say, oh, we can see his traffic and he's talking to McAfee. But Gmail to I made sure I saw Gmail. I'm smart. I'm going to use Gmail too. So then we both have encrypted legs. Then it never leaves the Gmail server. It's never going to go to Microsoft Yahoo. SMTP will never be used because SMTP does not get used inside Gmail. There is no SMTP inside Gmail. Man says Gmail secure, use Wicker. I don't care if you use Wicker, Elon Musk. It's not open source, but I don't care. If you're fond of it, but why do you want me to promote competition? So, Gmail will give your emails up to authorities, but they warn you. Yes, Jellyfish is right. So this is something that McAfee discovered, that if the authorities want to listen to your emails and if they make a request to Google that that your emails are being forwarded to authorities, they actually warn you that they're doing that. And so that's why he loves Gmail, because he gets advance warning. So the fact that I didn't get any warning means nobody's tracking my Gmail other than Google. So so again, it's knowing traversing the security world and knowing how things work. It's very important to learn from. And here you can say, well, you use pseudo-anonymity to work for you here. Use pseudo-anonymity to work for you. Forget about this. PG. That's correct. You can use PGP with Gmail. That is possible, but that's not really practical. You'd have to have like a PGP party, exchange keys, which isn't going to work. If I'm going to do that, if I'm going to spend that time, Elon Musk, I'm going to use Zuckerberg's me. Okay? Gmail is pseudo-anonymous. In fact, using PGP would actually draw attention to me. I used 3 fake accounts from 3 burner phones to create this ID. I will use virtual Android next time to make a fake ID. As he said, Proton Mail is probably, CIA owned. So I'm not surprised if Proton Mail is in fact controlled by some other party. But Brax.me is open source. But for external forces, you need to, validate your social media account. I use Gmail. I'm not going to use anything that identifies me. I'm going to use Gmail. Gmail won't let you know about a police warrant ahead of time. Well, they let McAfee know. So there you go. What is the most secure mail one can use? None. The most secure email you can use is none. But if you're going to use any email, I'd rather use a pseudo-anonymous one, such as Gmail, where I can make one, kill it, make another one, kill it, and so on. So that would be my preference, is to avoid using email. If I do, I always use it pseudo-anonymously, and the best place to be pseudo-anonymous is on Gmail. I would never use it for my real name account. If you do, kill that. I wouldn't use it for real name. Okay, so that's what is interesting about the Gmail, and I hope you learn from this. By the way, when you use webmail, there's an attack on email that can track your IP address, which can be beaten by VPN. So if you're in a VPN, you don't have to worry about the email attack. But this week, I got several very serious attacks on my email. Very serious ones with malware attack on email, and it didn't affect me. And the reason is, of course, I'm running Linux, one, and I follow the procedures in my video on how to set up my computer, because my computer is not an admin account, so a virus can't do anything. And I'm running Linux, so it didn't do anything. Yes, you use Thunderbird, yes, as a client. Do you think IRC is... Of course, why would IRC be private, Donnie? It's an open protocol. IRC is not meant to be private. And some protocols like Matrix can have encryption, but yet there's so much metadata that forget about the encryption. There's metadata that's connecting you with contact lists. Is there any open source mail system in Linux system? It doesn't matter. The flaw, the problem isn't whether the email system is open source or not, because that's not really relevant. The issue is that the email itself is floating around on the internet in plain text. Plain text. Okay, so it doesn't matter if what your client is, but it's in plain text. The problem is if you're not using Thunderbird, the client will respond to a beacon attack. And I don't need to. You can watch my videos about why beacon attack works on those platforms, but it does not work on Thunderbird. So Thunderbird is one I tested. It does not react to a beacon attack, but Outlook, Apple Mail, all of that, Mac Mail, all of them react to a beacon attack. But the other safe alternative to the beacon attack, which will spot your location, which I did live in one of my videos. Somebody actually, a troll came in and I identified him quickly on the email. The other alternative for safe email, for example, if you want to do email on a phone and you want to be ultra safe that it doesn't reveal your location, use webmail. Webmail. So let's say you use Gmail and you use webmail, meaning you go to the browser and go to gmail.com. That's pretty safe as long as you have a VPN. You always need something, VPN or Tor. And the best way is to do it my way and to use a hardware router instead of a VPN on your device. Everyone has a problem installing VPNs on many, many devices. Some of your devices cannot be protected because you can't install a VPN on them, like IoT devices. A hardware router doesn't need anything. It's just Wi-Fi. So I sell these. These are products that I made for this purpose, where it's a hardware solution to the VPN. I hate that word metadata. They like to mask bad things with the words that end in ah. It's tracking data, who, what, where, and time. Yes. So metadata, unfortunately, like WhatsApp is a big example of a big metadata stealer. So they say, we encrypt your conversation on WhatsApp, but then they actively say in their EULA that they track all of your metadata and send them to Facebook. So it's like, Zoc, you're never going to learn, aren't you? Please, guys, hit the like button if you like my video. I've been broadcasting for almost an hour and 45 minutes, and hundreds of you have come and gone already. And hit like if you like it, or dislike if you don't. Glad I was directed to your content. Thank you, X88888. Did you just come into content right now? Not from before? Okay, so the other thing that he talked about was the IP address. The IP address. Now, McAfee does not use a VPN, and in his case, that makes sense. If I were him, I wouldn't use. You buy it from me at Brax.me. You go to my app Brax.me. You find me and you find my store. You go to Brax.me. You click on my profile. You search for me there and click on my profile, and my profile has my store. How does John block his IP? Oh, we're going to talk about that. Okay, yes, please hit like, and I'm sure, there's been hundreds of you that have been here in and out already. So, yeah, hit like on there. The CV event has caused my videos to lose. I mean, YouTube isn't feeding my videos right now because everyone's distracted and they want to watch something else. So I'm not getting a lot of views right now. So So it'd be helpful to get the algorithm to be friendly to me again. And the way to do that is if you hit the like button. So hit like if you like. Tell McAfee you'll sell him $1,000 for he'll probably sell it back to me for double. Okay, so how does he hide his IP address, and should you use this method? Okay, so he knows it's. Let me just make this clear. Let me make this clear, because some of you will never learn until I'm telling you, as directly as I can. The most valued piece, the most valued piece of information for McAfee is location. It's his most protected piece of data. He doesn't protect anything else. He can say anything and will, say he's a cannibal and this and that, but he will never. My thing overheated here. I lost my light. It overheated. Or ran out of battery. Something ran out of battery. So location is the most important thing to hide, and I've been telling you, of course, same thing. The most important thing for you to hide is location tracking, because it's so accurate now that that you can't really evade it. So the solution, guys, to that is obviously to start with making sure that you have a device that's not tracked by Google with Wi-Fi scanning and all that, a device like this. And for average people, a VPN will stop this from having your IP address. So combined with the blocking of location and so combined with blocking location and blocking the IP address, it's going to be sufficient for most of us who are not actively being searched for by some government. In his case, he's being searched for by a government. So if you're being searched for by a government, how do you hide your IP address? And he says, I'm not using a $79 VPN you download from Google. He's using something more advanced, and he referred to it as a private network. Okay, so Donnie, if anything that will cause him to get caught, it would be the fact that he's going to get camera. Somebody will be on Facebook taking a photo with him in the background. He'll show up on Facebook, location tracking and all that will be identified. Yeah, so there's that's his biggest danger as far as I can see. How can we access your phones with Linux in countries like India? How can we access your phones with Linux? You install Ubuntu Touch on a Nexus 5. Abhinandan. You install a Nexus 5, you install Ubuntu Touch, or you get a Pine phone when that has software ready. It's not ready yet, though. Give it a few more months and it's going to be ready. It's getting there. You can make calls now on a Pine phone. So it's getting there. Anyway, back to how did he hide his... I'm running out of time here, so I'm going to try to speed this up here. How did he hide his IP address? And he doesn't use a VPN. So what they do, this is what hackers do, and you can't really boast about this, especially in the U.S., because it's illegal as heck to do this in the U.S. You can't do this in the U.S. I'm not going to go sell you this. Okay? This is one direct way to go to jail and say, I'm promoting private networks like this, and like the one McAfee may be using, because, that's illegal here. Now, what it is some hackers, and they boast about this openly, and it's like, you're fucking crazy? You're going to go to DEF CON and boast about this on DEF CON? You want to go to jail? So, no, don't, what they do is they create a botnet, and they actually hack. They use common tools to attack, unprotected computers on the internet by scanning the internet, and you find a botnet there. And then once you get control of a computer, maybe grandma's computer, because nobody, grandma doesn't know how to set it up, her son set it up and grandma doesn't know anything about it, and the computer's on, and the computer is now a bot. And then what happens is, instead of using the bot to do denial of service attacks and other kind of hacks, they just quietly use it as a router. So grandma's house now becomes a router for these hackers. So you get enough grandmas and grandpas computers running Windows. Probably they're all running Windows. So you get enough of these computers running Windows, and you create a private network, and all you have to do is do routing software to route it, kind of like a Tor, but it's not Tor. It's something that's even more random than Tor, because you can control it. So let's say you have 1,000 of these computers that you can use, and you can just route through them all day, and then change the exit point at any point. And if you refresh your list, this will never end as a supply, because if you run out, just keep hacking more computers, and there will always be some to be found. I'm sure there'll be millions of them to be found. So this is the way that they make kind of their own private VPN that is much more invisible. Since no one knows that you have a VPN account, no one can chase you and say, "Let me see the logs." Well, the hacker put the program in there. I'm sure there's no logs. Okay? They're never going to get traced, because it's never going to be one source. One is going to come from another computer, and they're never going to trace that. So, and there's not going to be any logs, because the hacker put the program in there. So, it's going to be like, some hacked version of OpenVPN. So, given that, or you don't even have to do that. I mean, you don't even have to encrypt it. So you can do this kinds of things into a private and run a private network. There's actually a company that actually sells this legitimately. They actually offer, to many people, that they offer to pay for the DSL service, and say, we'll share your DSL, we'll pay for it, and then we'll route traffic through your house. So there's actually some legit companies that actually offer this as a service, and allows you to use private servers, home servers. That's why you can watch Netflix with them, because they're coming from a house. This will appear to the other end like it's somebody's, grandma. Like grandma's doing this. This is kind of a grandma version of a solution. I think that's the kind of network that McAfee is using. Of course, you said it's not illegal for him. Well, it's in fact true. It's not illegal in Eastern Europe to hack computers in the United States, for example. That is not illegal. It's crazy, but that's exactly why there's so many hackers from that part of the world. Any info on that phones you're selling, beginner looking to get into Linux phones, thank you. Also, any idea when Selfish OS will come to North America for Sony phones? You can probably contact somebody from Europe and buy it from there, and have them, sell you the software through some friend from Europe. That's how so many people have asked for it. But as far as my phones, I have a video that I already made, and I haven't released it yet because of the CV event. But I have a video talking about this phone, and if it's quiet tomorrow, I'll release it tomorrow morning. Okay? I'll release this video tomorrow morning, and you'll see this is a de-googled AOSP Android 10. Okay? Completely de-googled. Very, very new phone. And there's no Google on here whatsoever. And I'll show you the apps. That'll be in a video that it's already done. And again, I'll decide to release it if people are going to watch it. I want to put in a tiny virtual computer on a free hosted website and make a host of VPN so I can make a bunch of them to route any connection. That's not smart, Mel Gibson, because they're all pointed to you. That's why a public VPN is better, because there are many of you, and it's disinformation, Because some of you will be liberal, some of you will be conservative, some of you will be rich, some of you will be poor, and you'll mix it up into, some of you will be men, some of you will be women, some of you will be from the East Coast, the West Coast, the South. Some of you will speak English, some of you will speak in Russian, the whole point is disinformation. That's what a VPN is for, disinformation. So that's why you want to do what I'm trying to do here, which is mix it up with many, rather than saying I'm going to put it's called a VPC, where you have one server and you route your traffic to that server. That's not going to help. Not going to help, Mel Gibson. How does JM communicate with his close friends? Gmail, Skype. He doesn't have an IP address, so it's easy. You can Skype. You can use Zoom. Because he's hiding his IP address. So Skype. Yeah, so that's how he talks to people. So he gave me that option, Skype or Zoom. Okay, so anyway, that's hopefully you've learned a little bit about. Looking forward to the phone videos. Learning more towards Moto G7 Play. Yeah, so I did this Moto G7 Play because many of you cannot survive without some common apps. So here I showed you that I actually put a good amount of common apps in here, and it doesn't work with all, but it works with a lot, and it pretty much works normally for them. And because of that, then it's close to what a normal person would expect on Android and iOS, with some few limitations. So you kind of have to make the choice that you can't have everything. Privacy means you have to decide that you're not going to use WhatsApp. I mean, if you can argue with me all day, well, I need to use WhatsApp, then use an Android phone and forget it. I mean, you're never going to have privacy with WhatsApp. Can I get a pre-installed Linux on Moto? No. Moto phone is not going to have Linux. Linux will be... I only sell Linux on Nexus 5s, and in the future, you can buy your own Pine phone. It's not going to sell Pine phones, but, Nexus 5s, that's all that you can use now. That's all I can get. I really can't get any other brand here in the U.S. I choose Nexus 5s because I can buy them, but I can't buy any other brand. They're not, I have a stock of Nexus 5s, but probably will not last. They're very hard to find. That's why it's not a good long-term solution, because I can't sustain it. I'm running out of sources of Nexus 5. I must have bought most of the Nexus 5s in the U.S. and they're gone now. So, this is the solution for now, while we wait for the Pine phone solution to get ready in a few months. In a few months, we can all have Pine phones. But some of you still will not like a Pine phone because you want to use some other apps. So if you want to use apps, then you're going to be, wanting this kind of de-Googled solution. The thing is that there's one thing clear. If you're using iOS, then there's no chance for you. I am a big iOS user of the past. So if somebody says, I don't like Apple, whatever, I have a lot of Apple products. I have an iPhone. I don't use them anymore. I'm looking for alternatives to improve my privacy, and I've learned that I cannot get privacy with an iPhone no matter what I do. So anyway, so if I still have a stock of Nexus 5, so in various levels of condition. I have some good condition ones still. When I run out of the good condition ones, and I typically will lower the price for the ones in lesser condition. But the phones I have right now are not bad, and some good ones. So and I pre-install Ubuntu Touch on it. So Ubuntu Touch is a very stable daily driver phone. So it's good enough for doing basic things on a phone, and it will offer you a lot of security. What is the difference between the Nexus 5 and the Moto G7? The Moto G7 is a new phone. The Nexus 5 is not new. Okay, the difference is the Moto G7 is a new phone running only some version of Android or AOSP. So I installed AOSP on this new phone. De-Googled. I cannot install Linux on here. This is not made to run Linux. What does it mean when an employer requires iOS? Well, you're dead meat. That's what it means. So if I were you, then use iOS at your employment and then turn the sucker off and use your alternate phone. So, use your head. Can you invent a new internet standard that people can use that on existing lines and hardware that bypasses WW1995 kind of system? There's many of that already. There's IP2. Aside from Tor, IP2 is the alternate one, and nobody will use them. So there's no one in IP2. I install IP2. There's nobody using that. So people, until you get a large number of people migrating to a different internet kind of thing like IP2, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Okay, so IP2, you can experiment with it, but where are you going to find websites? You're going to have to find IP2 servers. Is de-Googling like rooting phone and removing Google bloatware? No, Drac, it's beyond bloatware. It removes Google completely. Every kind of Google telemetry is gone. There is no Google. There is no Google login. It is a rooted phone. This is rooted. I rooted this phone. It is rooted. There's no Google on here whatsoever. Google does not know who owns this phone because I never logged in. Never logged in. So if you say, can I buy that phone you're holding? Yes, you can buy this phone that I'm holding because no one knows who owns this phone. This phone has location off, has no identity. And I reinstall everything from scratch. Then everything is wiped out. Even the identity is new. There's nothing. So, okay, understood. If I wanted to get into Linux phone, is the Nexus 5 the best option for now? For the very short term, it's the Nexus 5. 6 months from now, I'm going to recommend the Pine phone. And unless some other models come out. But in the meantime, that's all I would recommend right now. It's rooted, Google booted. What the zuck does that mean? I don't know what that means. So, okay, so it's rooting and then going beyond that. That's what I was getting at. Yes. So if you install this device here has a something. This is a new phone. New phones are built a little bit differently, Drac. New phones are part of something called the Treble Project or Project Treble. So in Project Treble, you just load a generic system image, GSI, from Google, which is an Android standard shell from the open source. It has nothing on it, and I mean nothing. So if you install that, there's nothing. Okay? So nothing. Well, not completely nothing. There's a phone dialer app and a contact list and a camera app. That's it. There's no store, nothing. There's nothing else. That's pretty much it. And settings. Now, what I do is then load various things in here, like starting it with F-Droid, Aurora, Micro G, and then some of this is done by command line. And so I pretty much start to install things on here from the command line, and then tweak some things on the command line to make it work, because it doesn't work too smoothly otherwise. So So just to make things, all the feature works, there's some tweaks you got to do on the command line. But it's using something called a GSI, generic system image. So, and that's only possible with new phones. So this is the way you do it on a newer phone. Newer phones have things called AB slots. So there's two system images. There's an A image and a B image. So it's a little bit more complicated. It's just different. It's not like a Nexus 5. It's different. The new ones are different. So the procedures are different. That's why even the Lineage OS are different. It is flashing a custom ROM, yeah. Librem 5, my order is not likely to arrive till October. So when I get it, I'll talk about it. What is F-Droid? Is an open source store. Free and open source store. Which is not, it doesn't come with that. You have to find a way to load that. Signal, an alternative to WhatsApp. Yes, it is. I don't like Signal only because it tracks metadata on your phone number. Otherwise, it's fine. Google wouldn't hide crap in the firmware. Do you think? You cannot, they don't make the firmware, Mel Gibson. The manufacturer makes the firmware. So would the manufacturer put firmware that supports Google? No, they'll probably do firmware that supports them. So if there's going to be spying on this, it's going to come from the OEM. In this case, Lenovo. So could Lenovo put something in the firmware? Yes, it's possible. Does Pigeon Messenger work on your Motorola? I don't know. You pass me a message later. I'll try it out. If there's any app you want me to test on it, just let me know. Contact me on Brax.me, and I'll test the app for you. Some people have already asked me about several like private apps required by their employer, and I can tell you if it works or not. I'm telling you right now, Lyft does not work at all. Anything Google doesn't work, meaning no YouTube, no anything Google. It's not going to work. What else? Uber driver doesn't work. Uber passenger works. Uber driver. Google did own Motorola. No, Google does not own Motorola. Motorola is a separate company, but that doesn't matter. This phone is not made by Motorola. This phone is made by Lenovo. Can someone register a custom domain anonymously? No. Someone can register a domain and you can somehow make it anonymous, but someone can find out. Maybe not directly, indirectly you can find out. So when some hackers try to do some hacks and they use some domains, and then they can find out roughly who owns them. So some were identified, for example, to be owned by Russia. So that's how they find that out. So you can't find out. Okay? Brax.me, Abinandan. Sorry, it's really tiny. Abinandan. Brax.me is what you should use. It's open source. It doesn't require you to have an identity. Doesn't track your phone number. So, yeah, it's one safe to use. Don't need anything else. I don't use anything else. I only use BlackMe. Lenovo already caught ones having hardware rootkit tracking on their laptops. So then you have enough to worry about then. So this is the bad part, Mr. McAleeks. Every phone is made in China. So your Samsung is made in China. Your iPhone is made in China. Everything is made in China. So, What can I tell you? Okay? What can I tell you? So everything is made in China. So, use a Linux phone. Because on a Linux phone, everything is open source. So if you want to be completely safe, even from the OEM, yes, you have to use Linux phones. But for some of you who are not worried about that threat, and not all of us need to be concerned about an OEM threat, then this is fine. Okay? For the average person, this is fine. For those of you who need more security, use a Linux phone. Clearly, nothing is more secure than a Linux phone. Okay? So, that is correct. That is correct with PinePhone and with Linux phones. If you're not too technical, they need a little bit of hand holding. They're not as friendly as, let's say, iOS and Android. So, but I'm telling you right now, don't use iOS, or just don't use the phone. Exactly. Okay, guys. So, depending on the news situation in the morning, if I find that the news is a little quiet in the morning, I will release my video. Otherwise, I'll wait, a day or so until the news level is a little bit down, and then I will release my video. Okay? So anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope you learned from this. Read the article. The article is in the description of this video, and that's my interview with John McAfee is on this. I'm going to repost this on Twitter, and then hopefully he shares this live stream to the rest of the world, his million followers. Okay, guys, thank you for watching tonight, and be careful out there and use social distancing. I've been doing social distancing for a while now, a couple of weeks. Before anyone said anything, I've already been doing it. So I've been very, very aware. For those of you who don't know, I guess I'm more of a prepper than the average person. So I made sure that I was already ready. I didn't have to go shopping and do any of that because I was already ready a long time ago. I didn't have to go buy toilet paper. Okay, I don't know why I would need toilet paper. It's like, why do you need to stock up on toilet paper beyond what you would normally need? I don't get that. How does toilet paper help you with CV? I have no idea. Okay, Bratwurst Power, Hawaii dealer, Galvano. Take care of yourself in Italy. I'm sure you're like staying home and just watch my videos, Galvano. Don't leave your house. Just watch my videos. Every one of you, if you're, school ended, no school, no activity, you stay home, just watch my videos. Learn from them, and then hopefully when all this is over, you say, hey, while I was at home, at least I learned something. Okay, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.